I think, David, debate to be resumed what day? Order, put it back. No, order. No.
Some business.
What sort of business?
Sex.
You're joking, but you've just eaten it, yeah?
No, I'm alright.
You got all curry around your mouth and that. I
I'm
can't be dealing with that.
Come on, babes.
How much is that?
This?
What? How much is the food?
£5.
Is that what you're selling, the food?
No, I'm selling business.
No, I'm not looking at business. I'll buy some of the food.
Come on then.
No, not. What is it?
Curry goat and rice.
But how much is $2.50 then? That's half price then, isn't it?
Alright then.
So how much have you ate more than half?
Yeah.
Alright, well that's cheaper then, isn't it?
Could you spare some cash, please, sir?
Cash? Not really. I can't spare it, no.
I want to do some business.
Not really. Not after you've eaten that.
Oh, come on, babes.
Nah, I'm not really. That's a bit fiery, isn't it?
No, babes.
No, I'm cool, you know. I'm alright. Yeah?
In your usual irrational way, that you're overstating the case and being totally unrealistic.
Which bit, Paul?
Well, the case. If you're having negotiations,
no. Let's. I prefer to talk.
Would you let me say what I was going to say?
When you tell me what I've been irrational about, yes.
Well, I'm just about to. If you'd let me get on with it.
Well, go on then.
Thank you. When you have negotiations, the positions can't start off fixed and then remain fixed all the way throughout. Otherwise, you'll never have negotiations.
How's Barnier moved?
That's right. No, I'm not. Would you just let me finish?
No, how's Barnier moved?
I would want to let me state my statement.
How has Barnier moved?
Would you let me state my statement?
Well, you've already said something that's not true.
No. You've got to allow me to develop my argument.
You carry on then, Paul. You develop away, my friend.
Are you going to allow me to finish?
Yes, Paul, carry on.
Thank you. That otherwise, so what happens is this: the UK position is that they want to preserve a free border with Ireland. That's it. If the EU are prepared to accept something like that, in other words, to modify their rules to suit the conditions of their own member state, Ireland, that might happen. If the EU show no intention of doing that, then you have to move to Plan B. And for Johnson to state what is the objective, and that is an objective which is also a public objective, and then deal with the alternatives if the EU aren't going to play ball, is just rational thinking. And I don't see how anybody can expect anybody else to do otherwise.
Well, let's begin with your first statement.
Views must change.
Yes, so let's begin with your first statement, that it's a negotiation and that means everybody moves. How has Michel Barnier's position on the Irish border changed since he first laid it out 18 months ago?
I don't think it has changed. But
you just said it has to.
Irrationality on the EU part.
No, irrationality is a description of facts.
No, what I'm saying is that they've entered...
No, I know what you're saying, Paul. I gave you lots of time to say it, and now we're examining it. So your first statement was that I had been irrational. I'm going to park my ego and not insist that you explain how.
Now, that's going to be a big job for you.
Absolutely it is. So let's look instead at what you said about negotiations. Michel Barnier's position last week and last year was that if we leave the customs union and the single market, there is no earthly way we can avoid having a hard border or moving the border to the sea. You said that positions changed during negotiations. I would just give you one opportunity now to explain how his position has changed, ever. Okay.
Well, I must agree with you formally there. His position hasn't changed, which shows that they aren't proper negotiations.
No, it doesn't. It shows that his position is contractually binding. It's the nature of the Good Friday Agreement that says it cannot move.
No. Well, okay.
Well, yes, Paul, this isn't a matter of opinion. This is a matter, and I've allowed you to be rude to me, and I've allowed you to insist on talking even though you've got nothing to say, and I've allowed you to be personal. So here is the question now, okay? How do you have identical economic conditions on both sides of the Irish border?
Are you asking me?
Despite what people sometimes think, it wasn't the European Union that delayed for years the extradition of Abu Hamza, almost stopped the deportation of Abu Qatada, and tried to tell Parliament that however we voted, we could not deprive his prisoners of the vote. It was the European Convention on Human Rights. The ECHR combined the hands of Parliament, adds nothing to our prosperity, makes us less secure by preventing the deportation of dangerous foreign nationals, and does nothing to change the attitudes of governments like Russia's when it comes to human rights. So regardless of the EU referendum, my view is this: if we want to reform human rights laws in this country, it isn't the EU we should leave, but the ECHR and the jurisdiction of its court.
На нахуй. На. Сестра, блядь, жена. Смотри, просто мясо, ебать. Ебать. На, за волосы. Просто труп. Все, ебу. На, пиво нахуй, правильно. Подружка, это лучшая подруга. Рыжик. Лучшая подруга Рыжик. Пока. Я пошла домой. А нам просто мешок с говном понес. Спать домой. Ёбаные животные.
Here, because I think actually as an MP it's easier for me to give you the voices of the people responsible for delivering it and their experiences about the training they've had and what they hope it will achieve for their customers. Cindy, you're in charge of the DWP in Durham and Tees Valley, and what do you think about universal credit and how it's going to help people?
Okay, so I honestly believe that universal credit is the right benefit and it's the right thing to do. We tailor our support to the individual, so nobody should be afraid to come in and see us, ask the questions, how it's going to be like for them. But we have a motto that we strongly believe in, which is work for those who can. So if you're capable and you're wanting to work, then we will help you find that work and give you all the support you need. Support for those who could, so perhaps you need upskilling, perhaps you need to do some provision, perhaps you need basic literacy. We will give you that support. And the final thing, care for those who can't. So we do appreciate and recognise that there are always going to be people who are too ill to work, and we will care for those people. Our people are more than work coaches. They help people with their lives, and every day we change lives. And it's because of universal credit, so we have more interaction than ever before with all of our benefit claimants, that we are able to do that.
You met with government. What was their response?
They were pretty much unconcerned. They think that their policies are working. They focus really only on employment. They're delighted that they've got full employment, which is
And that's right, isn't it?
a great
That's a good thing
achievement.
for any society.
It's excellent. And it is a way out of poverty. There's no doubt about that. But the point is that the 1.5 million people who are in destitution are not being covered by the work hours that they're getting. So there's a lot of in-work poverty, as it's described. People who are working for such low money or unable to get enough hours, or even if they're full-time, they're not able to keep their family. You've got the backdrop, of course, of the housing market and all of the other policy issues that impinge upon people's economic situation. But when things are really tough, there is a need for basic forms of government assistance for those who can't quite make it. I think government people haven't been out into the field, haven't had to talk to them, haven't explored what the real circumstances are. So I've had a number of people say to me, but we're not aware of this, we don't think there is poverty in our country. To which I would simply say, open your eyes, get out and take a look at the food banks. I spoke to one minister about food banks and he said, no, this is just it's an occasional phenomenon. And anyway, you have food banks in Canada and the United States, don't you? As though food banks are a good phenomenon and not something to worry about. Things are grim when they're springing up and people have to demean themselves to go along and beg for food. It's terrible.
And you don't think there's clearly enough understanding of that among government, among people making these policies?
I don't think it's seen as a deep indicator of the extent of distress.